Stray dog begs man to follow on deserted highway. What he discovers makes him sob and dial 911. On a desolate stretch of highway outside Phoenix, Arizona, a routine drive home turned into an extraordinary tale of canine heroism and human compassion. When Mike Travers, a local IT specialist, encountered a desperate stray dog trying to stop his car, he could never have imagined the life-changing journey he was about to embark upon. What started as a curious interaction between man and beast would soon unravel into a heart-pounding rescue mission, challenging our understanding of animal intelligence and the unspoken bond between species. Little did Mike know that his decision to follow this four-legged stranger would lead to a discovery that would leave him reaching for his phone to dial 911. Mike Travers was no stranger to long drives. His job as a traveling IT consultant often took him to remote locations across Arizona. At 35, with a lean build and a face weathered by the desert sun, Mike was the epitome of a modern-day road warrior. His Ford pickup truck was his office, his refuge, and sometimes his home away from home. On this particular evening in late September 2025, Mike was returning from a job in Tucson, his mind already drifting to the cold beer waiting in his fridge back in Phoenix. The sun was setting, painting the desert landscape in hues of orange and purple, a sight that never failed to take Mike's breath away, no matter how many times he'd seen it. As he rounded a bend in the empty highway, something caught his eye. A flash of movement, a blur of fur against the darkening asphalt. Mike's foot instinctively moved to the brake pedal. As his truck slowed, he saw it clearly. A dog, medium-sized and ragged, standing in the middle of the road, its eyes fixed intently on Mike's approaching vehicle. Little did Mike know that this encounter would be the beginning of a night that would challenge everything he thought he knew about the relationship between humans and animals, and lead him to a discovery that would send shockwaves through the local community. The highways cutting through the Arizona desert had long been notorious for abandoned pets. The vast, empty stretches of road made it an unfortunately convenient spot for irresponsible owners to dump unwanted animals. Local animal welfare organizations had been fighting an uphill battle against this practice for years, but the problem persisted. Mike Travers was well aware of this issue. Growing up in Phoenix, he'd heard countless stories of stray dogs roaming the desert highways. His own childhood dog, a loyal mutt named Buddy, had been rescued from one such stretch of road. Perhaps it was this personal connection that made Mike more attuned to the plight of these abandoned animals. In recent years, there had been a growing awareness of the intelligence and emotional capacity of dogs. Studies had shown that canines possessed problem-solving skills, emotional intelligence, and even a rudimentary understanding of human language that far exceeded previous estimations. This research had led to changes in animal welfare laws and a shift in public perception of stray animals. However, the harsh reality of life for a stray dog in the Arizona desert remained grim. The scorching heat, lack of water, and constant danger from traffic and predators meant that survival was a daily struggle. Many dogs didn't make it, succumbing to the elements or starvation. It was against this backdrop that Mike's encounter with the stray dog took place. The area where he spotted the dog was particularly remote, with the nearest town over 50 miles away. This made the dog's presence even more unusual, and its apparent determination to stop Mike's truck all the more intriguing. As Mike prepared to step out of his vehicle, he was unaware that he was about to become part of a story that would not only change his life, but also challenge our understanding of canine behavior and the depths of animal compassion. The events that would unfold over the next few hours would leave the local community stunned and spark a national conversation about the untapped potential of man's best friend. Mike slowly brought his truck to a complete stop, the headlights illuminating the dog standing steadfastly in the middle of the road. As the dust settled around them, Mike got his first clear look at the animal. It was a mixed breed, perhaps part shepherd, part something else, with a scruffy coat that spoke of a hard life on the streets. Despite its rough appearance, there was an unmistakable intelligence in its eyes that gave Mike pause. Cautiously, Mike opened his door and stepped out onto the asphalt. The dog, rather than running away as he expected, took a few steps towards him, its tail wagging hesitantly. "Hey there, buddy," Mike called softly, crouching down to appear less threatening. "You lost?" The dog whined in response, then did something that took Mike completely by surprise. It turned away from him, took a few steps down the road, then looked back, as if beckoning Mike to follow. When Mike didn't immediately move, the dog returned, gently tugged at his pant leg with its teeth, then again moved down the road, looking back expectantly. Mike felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't normal dog behavior. It reminded him of old Lassie episodes he used to watch as a kid, where the clever collie would lead humans to someone in trouble. But this was real life, not a TV show. "What is it, boy? You trying to show me something?" Mike asked, feeling a bit foolish talking to a stray dog on a deserted highway. The dog barked once, as if in affirmation, and again started down the road. Mike hesitated. It was getting dark, and he was already running late. Mike hesitated. It was getting dark, and he was already running late. Following a stray dog into the desert night wasn't exactly a smart move, but something in the dog's demeanor, the urgency in its actions, tugged at Mike's conscience. He couldn't just drive away. With a sigh, Mike went back to his truck and grabbed a flashlight and a bottle of water. "All right," he said to the dog, which was watching him intently. "Lead the way." As they set off down the darkening highway, Mike couldn't shake the feeling that he was walking into something big. He pulled out his phone, relieved to see he had signal, and quickly texted his location to his roommate, just in case. Then, with the dog trotting ahead and occasionally looking back to ensure he was following, Mike stepped off the asphalt and into the unknown. The dog led Mike off the highway and into the desert scrubland. As they walked, Mike's unease grew. The fading light cast long shadows across the landscape, and the silence was broken only by the crunch of their footsteps and the occasional call of a distant coyote. After about 10 minutes of walking, Mike was about to call it quits when he heard something. A faint sound, almost like a whimper, carried on the evening breeze. The dog's ears perked up and it looked at Mike as if to say, "Did you hear that?" They pressed on, the dog now moving with increased urgency. As they crested a small rise, Mike saw something that made his heart race. In the valley below, barely visible in the gathering darkness, was the wreckage of a car. "Oh my God," Mike breathed, picking up his pace. As they drew closer, the extent of the accident became clear. The car had veered off the old service road, rolled several times, and come to rest on its roof in a dry creek bed. It was a wonder Mike had heard anything at all from the highway. The dog reached the wreck first, circling it and whining. Mike approached cautiously, his flashlight beam revealing the extent of the damage. The car was a mangled mess of metal and shattered glass. It seemed impossible that anyone could have survived such a crash. Then he heard it again, a weak cry coming from inside the vehicle. Someone was alive in there. Mike's hands shook as he dialed 911. "I need help," he said as soon as the operator answered. "There's been a car accident off Highway 60, about 20 miles east of Phoenix. Someone's trapped inside." As he gave the operator more details, Mike circled the car, looking for a way to reach the survivor. The dog stayed close, its behavior now making perfect sense. Somehow this stray animal had not only found the crash site, but had the presence of mind to go seek help. The implications of this were staggering, but Mike pushed those thoughts aside. Right now, he had to focus on rescue. The 911 operator advised Mike not to move the victim, unless absolutely necessary. Help was on the way, but it would take time to reach their remote location. Mike knelt by the driver's side window, which was shattered but still mostly in place. "Hello?" he called out. "Can you hear me? Help is coming." A weak voice responded, "Help, my baby." Mike's blood ran cold. There was a child in the car. He shone his flashlight into the vehicle and his heart nearly stopped. In the back seat, strapped into a car seat that had likely saved its life, was a toddler, no more than 2 years old. The child was unconscious but breathing. The mother, still strapped in her seat, was in bad shape. Mike could see blood on her face, and she was drifting in and out of consciousness. The clock was ticking, and Mike knew he had to act. Against the operator's advice, Mike began to clear the shattered glass from the window. He had to get them out. As he worked, he became aware of the dog moving around the car. To his amazement, The animal had found a small opening on the passenger side and had managed to squeeze into the vehicle. Mike watched in awe as the dog gently nuzzled the child, licking its face. The toddler stirred, letting out a cry that was both terrifying and the most wonderful sound Mike had ever heard. The child was alive and conscious. With renewed determination, Mike redoubled his efforts to clear a path into the car. The distant wail of sirens reached his ears, but he knew they still had precious minutes before help arrived. Every second counted. As Mike finally created an opening large enough to reach into the vehicle, he was faced with a harrowing choice. The mother was in critical condition, but the child was more accessible. Who should he try to save first? The decision was taken out of his hands when the dog, still inside the car, began to tug gently but insistently at the child's clothing. The message was clear: get the baby out first. With careful maneuvering and guidance from the increasingly frantic 911 operator, Mike managed to unbuckle the car seat and slowly extract the child from the wreckage. The dog immediately positioned itself next to the toddler, its body providing warmth and comfort. Mike turned his attention back to the mother, but accessing her was proving difficult. The car's frame had buckled, pinning her in place. As the sirens grew louder, Mike talked to her, trying to keep her conscious and calm. The dog, having ensured the child was safe, returned to the car, positioning itself near the mother, offering what comfort it could. When the paramedics finally arrived, they found a scene they would never forget. A man, covered in dust and blood, cradling a young child, a critically injured woman trapped in an overturned car, and a stray dog keeping vigil over them all. As the professionals took over, Mike stepped back, his mind reeling from the events of the past hour. He looked down at the dog, who sat calmly at his feet, watching the rescue operation with an almost human-like understanding. "You're a hero, you know that?" Mike said, his voice choked with emotion. The dog looked up at him, and in that moment, a connection was forged that would change both their lives forever. Little did Mike know, this was only the beginning of an extraordinary journey that would challenge everything he thought he knew about the capabilities of animals and the bonds between species. The next few hours passed in a blur of flashing lights, urgent voices, and the whir of helicopter blades. The mother, whose name Mike learned was Sarah, had to be airlifted to the nearest trauma center. Her injuries were severe, but thanks to the quick action initiated by the dog's intervention, the paramedics were cautiously optimistic about her chances. The toddler, a boy named Max, was miraculously largely unharmed, protected by his car seat and the sturdy build of the vehicle. He was taken to the hospital as well, more for precautionary measures than any immediate medical concerns. As the scene cleared and the excitement died down, Mike found himself standing alone in the desert night, the faithful stray dog still by his side. A police officer approached, notepad in hand. "Sir, I need to get your statement," the officer said, then paused, looking at the dog. "Is this your dog?" Mike looked down at the animal, who gazed back with those intelligent eyes. "No," he said slowly, "but I think he's the real hero here." Over the next hour, Mike recounted the incredible series of events that had led to the rescue. The officer listened with increasing amazement as Mike described how the dog had flagged him down on the highway and led him to the crash site. "In all my years on the force, I've never heard anything like this," the officer said, shaking his head in disbelief. "That dog? He saved their lives, no doubt about it." As if understanding it was being talked about, the dog sat up straighter, its tail wagging slightly. Mike couldn't help but smile. "Yeah, he did. He really did." The officer made a few more notes, then closed his notebook. "Well, Mr. Travers, you're free to go. We'll be in touch if we need any more information." He paused, then added, "You know, the media's going to have a field day with this. A stray dog leading a good Samaritan to rescue a mother and child? It's the kind of story people need right now." Mike nodded, suddenly feeling the weight of the night's events. As the officer walked away, Mike crouched down next to the dog. "Well, buddy, I guess this is where we part ways. You take care of yourself, okay?" But as Mike stood and started walking towards his truck, he realized the dog was following him. He stopped, and the dog sat, looking up at him expectantly. Mike felt a lump form in his throat. After what they'd been through together, How could he just leave this extraordinary animal behind? "You want to come home with me, boy?" Mike asked softly. The dog's tail wagged furiously in response. And so, as the first light of dawn began to paint the desert sky, Mike Travers drove home with an unexpected passenger. He didn't know it yet, but this was the beginning of a partnership that would not only change his life, but would go on to save many more. In the days that followed, the story of the heroic stray dog exploded across social media and news outlets. Mike found himself thrust into the spotlight, recounting the incredible rescue to journalists from around the world. But the real star was the dog, whom Mike had named Hero. Animal behaviorists and cognitive scientists clamored to study Hero, amazed by the level of intelligence and empathy he had displayed. The dog's actions challenged existing understandings of canine cognition and problem-solving abilities. As Hero's fame grew, so did interest in the broader issue of stray animals and their untapped potential. Animal shelters reported a surge in adoptions, with many people inspired by Hero's story to give a home to a rescue dog. But the most significant development came when Sarah, the mother rescued from the crash, was finally well enough to meet the dog that had saved her and her son's lives. The reunion, captured on camera and broadcast nationally, was a tearful, joyous affair that left not a dry eye in the country. Sarah, still in a wheelchair but on the road to recovery, hugged Hero tightly. "You saved us," she whispered into his fur. "You're a miracle." It was during this meeting that Sarah revealed a stunning piece of information. She was a neuroscientist, specializing in animal cognition. The night of the crash, she had been driving home from a conference where she had presented her controversial research on heightened intelligence in stray animals. "I had theorized that the challenges of street life might accelerate cognitive development in dogs," Sarah explained to the assembled press. "But I never imagined I'd experience such dramatic proof of my theory." This revelation added a new dimension to Hero's story. It wasn't just a tale of animal heroism anymore. It was a living proof of a groundbreaking scientific theory. The implications were staggering, suggesting that stray dogs might possess cognitive abilities far beyond what was previously thought possible. As the cameras flashed and reporters fired questions, Mike stood to the side, watching Hero interact gently with young Max. In that moment, he knew that his life had changed forever. He had set out on a routine drive home and ended up at the center of a story that was changing the way the world viewed animals. As the media frenzy began to die down, Mike realized that his journey with Hero was just beginning. With Sarah's encouragement and guidance, he decided to dedicate himself to exploring the full extent of Hero's abilities and to advocating for stray animals everywhere. In the months that followed the dramatic rescue, Mike's life took a turn he never could have anticipated. He quit his IT job and, with Sarah's help, established the Hero's Hope Foundation, an organization dedicated to researching canine intelligence and promoting the welfare of stray animals. Hero became the mascot and star pupil of the foundation. Under the guidance of Sarah and a team of animal behaviorists, he demonstrated problem-solving skills that astounded even the most skeptical scientists. He could understand complex verbal commands, use tools to solve puzzles, and even showed signs of abstract thinking, abilities previously thought to be beyond canine capabilities. The Foundation's work began to yield remarkable results. They developed new methods for assessing and enhancing cognitive abilities in rescue dogs, dramatically improving their chances of adoption. Shelters across the country began implementing these techniques, leading to a significant drop in euthanasia rates. Mike and Hero became a familiar sight in schools and community centers, where they gave presentations on animal intelligence and the importance of treating all creatures with compassion. Children were particularly receptive, and a new generation began to grow up with a deeper understanding and respect for animals. Sarah, fully recovered from the accident, joined the foundation full-time as its lead researcher. Her work, now backed by Hero's living example, was revolutionizing the field of animal cognition. She and Mike grew close through their shared mission, their relationship blossoming into something neither had expected but both cherished. As for Max, Sarah's son, he grew into a happy, healthy child with a special bond with Hero. The dog seemed to have appointed himself as Max's personal guardian, a role he took very seriously. It was a joy for Mike to watch them play together, a constant reminder of the miraculous circumstances that had brought them all together. The impact of Hero's story reached far beyond the scientific community. Lawmakers, inspired by the public outpouring of support for stray animals, began to draft stricter animal welfare laws. Cities implemented more humane strategies for managing stray populations, focusing on rehabilitation and adoption rather than euthanasia. 1 year after the fateful night on the highway, Mike stood on a stage in Washington, D.C., Hero by his side, addressing a congressional committee on animal welfare. As he shared their story and the groundbreaking findings of the Heroes Hope Foundation, Mike reflected on the incredible journey that had led him to this moment. "A year ago, I was just a guy driving home from work," Mike said, his voice filled with emotion. "I could have easily driven past a stray dog on the side of the road. But because I chose to stop, because I chose to listen to an animal that was desperately trying to communicate, lives were saved. And not just the lives of Sarah and Max, but potentially thousands of animals who will now have a chance at a better life because of what we've learned." As applause filled the chamber, Mike looked down at Hero, who sat calmly, his intelligent eyes surveying the room. In that moment, Mike knew that their work was far from over. They had opened the world's eyes to the untapped potential of animals, particularly those that society had overlooked or abandoned. But there was still so much to learn, so many more animals to save. As they left the Capitol building, cameras flashing around them, Mike couldn't help but smile at the strange turns his life had taken. He had set out to save a dog, but in the end, that dog had saved him, giving his life a purpose he never knew he was missing. The sun was setting as Mike and Hero walked back to their hotel, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, reminiscent of that fateful Arizona evening. Mike couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation for what the future might hold. With Hero by his side, he knew that anything was possible. 5 years after Hero's remarkable rescue, the landscape of animal welfare and research had transformed dramatically. The Heroes Hope Foundation had grown into a global organization with branches in over 30 countries. Its cognitive enhancement programs for rescue animals were now standard practice in progressive shelters worldwide. Mike, now a renowned figure in animal advocacy, divided his time between overseeing the foundation, giving lectures, and continuing his work with Hero. Their bond had only grown stronger over the years, with Hero continually surprising researchers with his cognitive abilities. Sarah had become a leading authority in animal cognition, her work revolutionizing the field. She and Mike had married 2 years prior, with Hero serving as the ring bearer in a ceremony that made headlines around the world. Max, now a bright 7-year-old, was following in his mother's footsteps, showing a keen interest in animal behavior. His special bond with Hero remained as strong as ever. As the foundation prepared to host the first global conference on canine cognition and welfare, Mike reflected on the incredible journey that had started with a chance encounter on a desert highway. That one decision to stop and listen to a stray dog had sparked a revolution in our understanding of animal minds and the human-animal bond. The ripple effects of Hero's story and the subsequent work of the Heroes Hope Foundation spread far beyond the realm of animal welfare and research. Over the next 2 decades, their groundbreaking discoveries led to a paradigm shift in how humans perceived and interacted with animals across species. The field of animal cognition exploded with new research initiatives. Scientists, inspired by Hero's unprecedented abilities, began to look more closely at the cognitive capabilities of various animals, both domesticated and wild. Studies on elephants, dolphins, and great apes yielded surprising results, suggesting levels of intelligence and emotional complexity previously thought impossible. In the realm of domestic animals, the impact was even more profound. The methods developed for enhancing canine cognition were adapted for cats, horses, and even farm animals, leading to new approaches in animal husbandry that emphasized mental stimulation and emotional well-being. This resulted in happier, healthier animals and, in many cases, more productive and sustainable farming practices. The long-term impact on animal welfare was staggering. By 2050, the concept of animal shelters had been completely reimagined. Instead of stark, depressing facilities, they became vibrant centers for animal education and human-animal bonding. Euthanasia rates for healthy animals dropped to near zero in most developed countries, and adoption rates soared. But perhaps the most profound long-term outcome was the shift in humanity's collective consciousness regarding our relationship with animals. As evidence of animal intelligence and emotional complexity mounted, public perception underwent a radical transformation. Animals were no longer seen merely as pets or resources, but as sentient beings worthy of respect and consideration. This shift had far-reaching implications across various sectors of society. Education. Schools worldwide began incorporating advanced animal behavior and welfare courses into their curricula. Children were taught from a young age about the cognitive abilities of different species and the importance of empathy towards all living beings. 2. Law and ethics. Legal systems globally were overhauled to provide stronger protections for animals. In many countries, animals were granted legal personhood status with rights that extended beyond mere protection from cruelty. 3. Technology. The need for more sophisticated human-animal communication tools drove rapid advancements in AI and biotechnology. Neural interface devices, originally developed to facilitate communication with highly intelligent dogs like Hero, paved the way for breakthroughs in treating human cognitive disorders. 4. Urban planning. Cities began to be designed with the needs of urban wildlife in mind. Green corridors, wildlife crossings, and integrated habitats became standard features in urban landscapes. 5. Conservation. Wildlife conservation efforts were revolutionized. Instead of merely preserving habitats, conservationists began working on establishing communication and cooperation with intelligent animal species to jointly manage ecosystems. 6. Psychology and neuroscience. The study of animal cognition and emotion expanded dramatically, leading to new insights into the nature of consciousness itself. This, in turn, fostered greater empathy and consideration for all forms of life. 7. Space exploration. Surprisingly, the techniques developed for enhancing and communicating with animal intelligence found applications in humanity's ventures beyond Earth. The skills honed in interspecies communication proved invaluable in humanity's first encounters with extraterrestrial microbial life. As for Mike and Hero, they lived to see their once radical ideas become the new global standard. In their later years, they focused on mentoring the next generation of animal cognition researchers and welfare advocates. The Heroes Hope Foundation evolved into a major global think tank, influencing policies on animal welfare and human-animal relationships worldwide. Hero himself lived to the remarkably old age of 18, defying all expectations for canine longevity. His cognitive abilities remained sharp until the end, and his passing was mourned globally. A state funeral was held in his honor, attended by world leaders and broadcast to millions, a testament to how far the world had come in recognizing the value of animal lives. The story of Hero and Mike had become a symbol of hope, a reminder of the extraordinary possibilities that can unfold when we open our hearts and minds to the silent inhabitants of our world. It stood as a testament to the power of compassion, the importance of listening to those who cannot speak our language, and the vast untapped potential that exists in the animal kingdom. In the end, a simple act of stopping for a stray dog on a desert highway had grown into a global movement that reshaped humanity's relationship with the animal world, offering a path towards a more empathetic, sustainable, and integrated future for all species on Earth. The story of Hero and Mike serves as a powerful reminder of the profound impact that compassion and openness can have on our world. At its core, this tale challenges us to reconsider our preconceptions about the cognitive and emotional capacities of animals, and indeed, about the very nature of intelligence and consciousness itself. Mike's journey from an ordinary IT specialist to a pioneer in animal cognition research embodies the idea that extraordinary change often begins with a simple act of kindness. His willingness to stop and listen to a stray dog, even when it seemed illogical, highlights the importance of empathy and intuition in both scientific advancement and personal growth. The remarkable bond formed between Hero and Mike invites us to reflect on the depth of connections possible between species. It raises profound questions about the nature of intelligence and the potential for meaningful interspecies relationships that we may have previously overlooked or dismissed. Moreover, the global paradigm shift that resulted from this singular act of compassion demonstrates the far-reaching consequences our actions can have. It serves as a testament to the idea that small acts of kindness can snowball into movements that reshape our world in fundamental ways. The success of the Heroes Hope Foundation and the worldwide adoption of new approaches to animal welfare challenge us to reimagine our role as humans on this planet. Rather than seeing ourselves as separate from or dominant over other species, it proposes a model of partnership and mutual respect with the animals that share our world. This story also serves as a poignant reminder of the untapped potential that exists in the animal kingdom. It suggests that by opening ourselves to new ways of understanding and interacting with animals, we might find innovative solutions to pressing issues in fields ranging from conservation to cognitive science, and even to our exploration of the cosmos. Ultimately, the tale of Hero and Mike is one of hope. It illustrates that even in the face of overwhelming global challenges, individual actions driven by compassion and understanding can lead to extraordinary outcomes. It reminds us that the boundaries we perceive between ourselves and other species are often of our own making, and that bridging these divides can open up new realms of possibility. As we reflect on this extraordinary journey, we are invited to look at the world around us with fresh eyes. What potential for understanding and connection might we be overlooking in our daily interactions with animals? How might our small acts of compassion ripple out to change the world? And how can we, like Mike, remain open to the wonderfully unexpected possibilities that exist in our relationships with the creatures who share our planet? As we conclude this remarkable tale of Hero and Mike, I invite you to pause and consider your own relationships with the animals in your life and environment. How might your perspective shift if you approach them with the same openness and empathy that Mike showed to Hero? Take a moment to observe the animals around you, be they pets, wildlife, or even the often overlooked creatures in your backyard. What signs of intelligence and emotion can you recognize? How might you deepen your connection with these beings? We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Have you ever had a moment of unexpected connection with an animal? How do you think our world would change if we could communicate more effectively with other species? Share your stories and ideas in the comments below. Let's start a conversation about how we can foster better relationships with the animals we share our lives and our planet with. If you found this story inspiring, please like and subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking content. In our next video, we'll be exploring real-world innovations in animal cognition research. You won't want to miss it. Remember, every interaction with an animal is an opportunity for learning and growth. Who knows, your next encounter with a pet or wild animal could be the start of an extraordinary journey of discovery and connection.